Assalamu alaikum. My name is Salim Siddiqui and thanks for watching Hot Conflict. We're continuing on with playing around with the pen on the whiteboard. You know, it's been really hot the last few weeks, really intense heat all over the news. And so the other day I went with my kids to the water park and they were going down the water slides and they had this really interesting slide called the hydrofuge. It's kind of fun. You start at the top and you slide down and then you get to this bowl-shaped thing. And when you come down the slide, you spin around and then the bowl drops you through this hole into a dunk pool at the bottom. So you come swinging around and you go down this spinning little vortex or funnel and then you plop out right here and you come either head first, swinging down at high speed, shooting down. I started to look at this pattern there as I'm staring down at my kids going down from the top, coming up the stairs here and climbing up the ladder. Then you slide down and I'm sitting there wondering, looking at this pattern and thinking about this little funnel pattern, this little vortex that gets built as you slide down. And it started to make me think about some of the things that we do here and some of the things that we talk about. Of course, the last episode that we talked about some of the relations of ascension and sacred sites and stuff like sacred geometry or triangles or circles or squares. Of course, today we're going to be talking about some more interesting concepts and specifically talking about this concept of the vortex or the funnel. The idea that there's a spiral nature. There's a spinning portal, Stargate. Sometimes that concept is known as a spiral or an opening, and sometimes it's also depicted in a spiral fashion like that, right? This swinging down. A spiral pattern. Now it made me start to think about the idea that different places on the earth have different energies. Our concept before was that we said that the pyramids are built on certain concepts of energy and that lines extend throughout the earth from these points and that energy resonates, right, from the pyramids. So now we're looking at the earth and we're seeing that different places have different resonances and maybe even certain places anchor certain resonances and then that resonance pattern gets locked in on the earth. So now we're starting to see that certain places can hold certain frequencies, almost like, you know, you have your little cars. And when you're looking at the tires here, sometimes when we think of wheels or tires, it's important for us to understand that when you go to get your car fixed, you go to get your tires, you know, you get a hole in your tire or flat, you get a new tire, get your wheels realigned, that when you're looking at the wheel itself and you've got your center hub, there's sometimes these little pegs that they put in so that when the wheel spins and spins around and you're driving your car, these act as alignments for the spin or the rotation of the wheel to make sure that the wobble doesn't affect your alignment and that you're going straight consistently down the road. So perhaps it is true that certain places have certain resonances or act as stabilizers for the very earth and change the actual frequencies. So is it possible that when we think of the sun and then the various planets and orbiting around the central sun, we tend to see this pattern of spin, and we've got various other planets and orbits and different patterns going on, we tend to think of everything in a spinning motion. Of course, everything runs its course, the sun, the moon, the day and night. Everything has its natural set functions. Yet we are those who do not go based on calculations. We tend to specifically look for the visual sighting, whether it be the sun, the moon, or any of the other things. We do not use calculations. We actually have to go take the visual sighting, whether it be the prayers 5 times a day or the months of the lunar calendar, Ramadan coming up very soon, inshallah. That's always a debated issue on whether we trust calculations or whether we have to get a specific visual sighting and actually see with the eye yourself. You need to actually have someone visually sight it and see. I observed it with my eye and I testify to it. Right? So now I'm starting to think, okay, this funnel concept, this vortex concept, is it possible that if we were to think of the dimensions, to think of the physical plane, think of the earthly dimension as a sheet or a plane, right? That if the physical dimensions were a physical plane in existence, then it's possible that there would be some kind of spiral pattern and that things possibly aren't all flat on one plane. What do I mean? If you were to look at the plane as a cross-section, the physical plane of the Earth, they say that not everything is flat, it cycles. If the physical plane were your line, your cross-section, then there are higher and lower densities even in physical planes. So when you're looking at the world on a physical plane, you might have lower and higher densities, and this is what they call special relativity. That if you have the physical planes with planets all on the physical plane, that it is possible that some of them have densities that are lower or higher than the others. Is it possible that the actual plane itself is not flat, that there's special relativity, or that there's differing densities even in one physical plane? And we're not talking about going from one dimension to another. That some places or planets or even individuals are closer to the 4th dimension, and some are closer to a lower dimension. Some are closer or more in line to a higher dimension, and some are more dense. Some are more enlightened or filled with light, and therefore less dense. Is it possible that the actual pattern itself is what we call the horn? That time and space and physicality is actually a horn. Now, oftentimes you hear of the horn, right? The shofar that somebody blows in and it creates a resonance. What we're saying is that same concept of the horn, right? Whether it be from an actual being with horns, or the very nature of the universe or the world itself, that the world and the physical space or the dimensions are not just one physical flat plane, but possibly differing levels? Is it possible to think of it instead of a square plane, more like a round plane? That the physical realm is circular in nature or oval in shape, and that the various bodies within physicality have varying degrees of density. What happens in the physical realms? We're saying that it's possible to understand that the physical has many different planets at different levels of elevation and vibration. If you look at the Earth being on a cycle, and here's your globe, you've got your continents, right? Spinning, that each one of these possible other positions on the circle is a possible alternate reality, a possible alternate Earth. In infinite loops, in infinite times, we exist only in the physical now. But all these other realms are different possibilities, choices, options, realities that actually exist. And to see them or experience them, you shift your intent to another reality. So now we're saying that there's multiple realities going on at any one physical time, but that the planet itself exists in a portal, traveling through the field of space. It exists in its own vortex. It has its own field and its own spin, and it moves with all other things in the universe. The concept that many people are talking about now of the idea that our Earth is traveling by all four dimensions of the sun's horizon, traveling to the cardinal cross point of time. This also being the Chinese symbol for time, the idea that the Earth and the sun have effect on the actual physical vibration that we're experiencing. Our actual reality is based on our intent and focus and the surroundings that we see of ourselves. So then let's say, for example, we have a universe with multiple worlds. And in this physical plane, we have the Earth and many other planets throughout the known or unknown world or galaxies. And that this Earth has experienced the lowest of the low of this dimension. Meaning this Earth has gone to the lowest level. It has experienced the lowest level and is now rising back up. In an ascension pattern, we can imagine that the whole of all of creation is not just our Earth, but many, many other planets. Perhaps a ratio of 12 by 12. Meaning within the whole matrix of physicality, there is more than 144. How many zeros do you want to put on after that? Who knows? But there is a variation of 144 types and styles, at least, at a minimum. And our Earth represents the planet in physicality that has gone the lowest of the low, right? لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. That it is mankind, the planet of Earth, the planet of man, that has descended to the lowest of the low. But what is important to understand is that once this planet, who has achieved the lowest of the low in the spiritual realms, in the consciousness understanding, it returns back up. It alters the whole. Because when the lowest of the low rises up, it raises the frequency of everybody that is within that whole matrix, meaning those who are on this plane have achieved that level of density. Meaning, once something is understood by a certain group or comprehended or withstood, those of this earth have maintained their light at this lowest level. All those others who have not gotten that low will achieve an understanding of all the levels in between, right? It is why people in the next level above us are saying the importance of this Earth's ascension, because it has gone to the lowest level, that when this Earth ascends, its effects expand throughout all of physicality. The expanding nature of this world affects everyone and everywhere, because this is the world that the dark held as a Bunker Hill, as their flag, as their rally point, as their capstone. They took this earth to be their cornerstone, their home base, and lowered it to the lowest level. And thereby, when this planet raises up to the light, it changes everything with it. And so now we have this concept again that funnels are created, or vortexes are created. And this returns us back to this concept that those of you who, for example, watched the show Lost, you saw that at a certain point on the island, they created the ring. And with this ring, created a vortex field that they could spin and move the actual vibration of the island. That they picked the heart chakra of the island and then spun the physical creation that they had made to alter the vibrational level of the very island. Now, altering physical vibrations is something that is known amongst Muslims, whether it be teleportation or just raising your vibration so that you're not in the visible spectrum of those around you. The Prophet did those types of things many times, and many of the scholars and Salaf were well known to have done those types of things, meaning raising your vibration at such a level where those who are at a lower vibration cannot perceive you. The same argument is made by us in regards to the heart chakra of the whole earth. That we, the Muslims, 5 times a day spin the very vortex and spiral of the earth counterclockwise. That while those of you who are unaware of what's going on in the battle of consciousness, in the battle of sacred geometry, in the actual chakras or Metatronic cube of the earth, we use this physical location as a rallying point for intent, and 5 times daily spin the chakras of the earth 5 physical points, so that the very consciousness of the earth ascends. We, the Muslims, especially the Mujahideen, are moving the earth up the ascension pattern with the whole galaxy and universe around us. Now, of course, there are spirals and vortexes and patterns and hydrofuges and toilets being flushed all over the world. You don't have to be a hermit or a monk or an ascetic or a zahid or very, very spiritual to understand the concepts. You can just go to the water park with your kids and go down the water slide, but pay attention to everything going on around you. My name's Salim Siddiqui. Thanks for watching Hot Conflict. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.